Hey everyone, this is Alexander James Guitars, and welcome to this episode of Tool Talk Tuesday. Today we're going to look at a very simple tool that I use almost every single day in the shop. A string action ruler. I have a couple of them, this one being the cheapest, so that's why I decided to give this one the review. This string action ruler cost me about $2 to $3 on eBay from China. You can get them from $3 all the way up to something like $30 Canadian. Now the question is do you need one that costs $30, or is something like this going to be good enough for you at $2 to $3? So it's such a simple tool that we basically will just have to measure if any of these measurements on the tool are actually correct. But really, if they weren't, you'd probably be okay, because let's say that 2 millimeters is actually measuring 3 millimeters. As long as you knew that, you should be able to still use this tool. So right now, I'm going to measure a couple of the measurements labeled on the string action ruler and see how accurate they actually are. So what I've done here is I've dialed 3 millimeters into my calipers, and I'm going to measure the 3 millimeter mark on the string action ruler and see what it is. So already I can see that the 3 millimeter mark is not exactly on compared to the calipers. Now I'm going to test the 2 millimeter mark and see what that's like. So again, this one, I don't know if that's coming up on camera, but the 2 millimeter mark on the string action ruler is just slightly higher than the caliper's 2 millimeters. And it seemed to be the same amount higher on the 3. So I think this entire side, when the string action ruler was being stamped out, is just a little bit oversized. For the right side of the string action ruler, there's inch measurements. I'm just going to do the 0.875 of an inch and see how close that is. You can see I have that dialed into the caliper. And so on this side, it's actually a little bit short on the string action ruler compared to the caliper. On the left side, we have some millimeter measurements. Right here, I've put 20 into the caliper, and we have the top line here being 20. So let's take a measure of that and see how close it is for the left side. So this one actually seems to be pretty much right on. So the left side is much more accurate than the right side. Now for the inch side of the string action ruler, I've dialed in 0.14, and I'm going to measure the last point on the inch side here for action. So this one is actually pretty much right on. So that seems to be much better than the bottom side of the millimeter. And just to check the other side, I've dialed in 0.04, and we'll see what that is like. So this one, I'm actually seeing that on the string action ruler, it's a little oversized. Pretty much by the same amount that we're having on the millimeter side here. So at 0.140, it's spot on, and then over here, it's a little bit too much, a little bit too large. The other side of the string action ruler, on the other hand, has full-on measurements of millimeters up to 75 millimeters, and then up to 3 inches on the other side. In the middle here, we have type of instrument, sixth string and first string. And I guess acoustic and bass guitar. So I think bass guitar would mainly, you'd be thinking about 4 strings. But anyway, so I think for the bass guitar 4 string, it's saying 2 to 2.5 millimeters. And then there's obviously inches underneath. And then for the first string, 1.5 to 2 millimeters. And then obviously for the sixth and the first for acoustic and electric. So just like a helpful reminder. So the actual lettering and measurements you can feel with your finger. They're actually, I think maybe laser etched in or something like that, and then blackened. And it feels good. I've used this particular one for a very long time, and as you can see, it hasn't worn whatsoever. Complaint I would have about it is there's definitely a noticeable burr around the whole perimeter. Now, of course, that's from it being stamped out of the, I guess, the stock they use, because this edge is all rounded. Now, you just have to be very careful. Obviously, you try to not place this close to any type of guitar finish or something like that to avoid scratching it up. I can live with the graduations being slightly off. They're, again, not too bad. So as long as you know that, you can accommodate for it. It's much easier using one of these than trying to measure a millimeter with this part of the digital calipers for doing string action. This is just a really quick go-to tool. Now, would a $30 one be a lot more accurate? Most likely. But again, guys, come on, it's literally just a stamped piece of metal with some engravings on it. So should you buy the $3 one or one that's close to $30? I think that this one's fine. It may be a little bit off in some of the measurements, but really, as long as you account for that, you'll have no issue.